The next lecture will be covering Chapter 4 in your textbook, which is part of Tab 2. So this chapter is all about locating support materials. So for your informative and persuasive speeches, you will be required to find some outside information. This information must be both cited in your Works Cited page and verbally cited within your speeches. So the first thing this chapter talks about is the different places online that you can go to get information to support your thesis or central idea of your speech, to help give you more information than things you already know inside your own head. So this is a list of the most common things people use the internet for. The one you will probably use the most is search engines. If you choose not to use the internet and would instead prefer to go to the library, there are several things that the library offers. They offer books, newspapers, and magazines, which are probably three of the most common things you would use, along with journals. However, if you do go to the library and you're struggling to find information that you want or that you need, make sure that you check with a librarian. You'd be surprised how many resources they have that you wouldn't realize. Also, most libraries do offer free internet access if you do not have it in your own home. What do both the library and the internet offer? Government resources and reference works. So if you choose not to use sources that already exist and instead want to get some information on your own, the two most common ways you will do that is by conducting an interview and conducting a survey. So when you are preparing your interview, there are several things that you want to make sure that you are doing. So the first thing that you want to make sure is that you are setting up a proper time for the interview. So you want to make sure that the person you are interviewing, you have a proper time and location to meet with them that will lower distractions and increase the likelihood of having a successful interview. You also want to make sure that the person you are interviewing is somebody who is credible and or an expert in the topic you are interviewing them on. Before you go into the interview, you want to make sure that you have plenty of questions written out that you would like the person to interview. You also want to decide how you want to take notes or what sort of interview you want to do. So while you are conducting the interview, do you want to be taking notes? Or a lot of people will bring in a recorder with them and ask for permission to record the interview, so that way you have those as notes to go along with the notes you are taking while you are in the interview. But the bottom line is you want to be as prepared, have as much information about the person you are interviewing, and have as many well thought out questions that will be directly applicable to your speech if you choose to use this method of gathering information. When you are conducting the interview, you want to make sure that you are as prepared, that you have a good appearance when you show there, that you are using proper conversational techniques, that you are polite, that you are thanking the interviewer for the interviewee for their time. Make sure that you allow yourself to ask follow-up questions if needed. And make sure you get the information that you are able to properly cite the interview. Similarly, you can also... Oh, and then the last part, most important part of an interview too, is if you are unable to meet face-to-face, make sure that you see if you can use a media-assisted interview. A lot of times this can even be more successful because then you have what they are saying in writing, which cuts down on the possibility of people being misquoted or for you having incorrect information. So media-assisted interviews would be emails or letters, or sometimes people videotape the interviews when they are happening. Another way you can gather information outside of information that's already published is by conducting the survey. So when you're creating the survey, you want to make sure you're following the guidelines in the chapter that will allow you to make sure that you are following all of the effective rules for the survey. And when you are conducting the survey, you want to make sure that you are conducting a survey that meets all of the requirements for a true survey, meaning you want to make sure that you have demographic questions that will let you know the male to female or the ethnic or religion or whatever information you need to know to make sure that you are getting a diverse population that is taking the survey. You want to make sure you're selecting individuals that represent subgroups across the entire population. You want to make sure that you survey a large enough sample and that you factor in locations. You will not be required to conduct an interview or a survey for this class, but if you choose to take that on, you are welcome to do so. If you do choose to take on this method for information, make sure that you also contact me so that I can make sure that we are following all of the guidelines for the university for conducting research. So how to research effectively. The very first thing you want to do is make sure that you are prepared to research, that you have all of the sites that you possibly want to do, that you have all of the support materials you are looking for, that you are making sure that you have the time set up to adequately research. You want to make sure that you aren't waiting to the last moment to find your research or to conduct your research. You want to make sure you are an ethical researcher. You don't want to plagiarize, so you have to make sure you get good citation information. You want to make sure that you get the whole story, that you get the full statistics. The more information you have, the more thorough you are, the better the information is going to be in your speech. The more credible it's going to be, and the stronger appeal to the audience your speech will have. So I would rather have you have too much information and have to cut some out than not have enough. So that includes taking thorough notes and making sure you have all the citational information that you want to have. Going back, I want to come back to what does the internet offer. So I want to spend a little bit of time to make sure that we talk about credibility within internet sources. So overall, the major tip I have is whatever the end of the website is will link to whether or not or how credible the site is going to be. So anytime you get information from a .com website, so yahoo.com, msn.com, .com means that it is a commercial website, which means people have paid to have this website, and they can put whatever information they want on there, whether it's accurate or not. They can put whatever they want to put on there because it is a commercial website. So that one is usually the most hesitant. I'm most hesitant about using .com sites because of this fact. In the medium area of that, you have the .org, which is organizations. So pbs.org. When it's an organization, so .org websites usually have more credible information because it's an organization that's putting it on, not somebody looking to make money. However, a lot of .orgs can still have inaccurate or skewed statistics. So one of my favorite .org websites is cancer.org, which is the American Cancer Society's website, but it's still going to have more information that leads towards the number of people suffering from cancer, and they're going to try to skew the statistics in that way so that their organization has more validity in the world. So .orgs are better than .coms, but they're still not the most perfect websites to get information. The two best websites when you're able to get information are .edu, so education websites, and .gov, government websites. So whitehouse.gov is going to be the most accurate information because it is regulated by the government to ensure that it is credible information. Same thing with .edu, our education websites, so scholarly journals and things of that sort are more likely going to have accurate, unbiased information. The last two things I want to talk about on that front are news sites, which will have fairly solid, fairly accurate information, but again, you need to be careful because a lot of news sites are skewed or biased one way or the other. So things like foxnews.com is going to have a more conservative bias, a more conservative lean than something like MSNBC or like Yahoo or Google or Huffington Post. Those websites tend to lean more towards the Democratic or liberal side and have those biases. What you want to try to do is find news sources that are more in the middle, more neutral. And so the one I always recommend for that is the New York Times and CNN. Those two web sources, or two news web sources, tend to have the most unbiased information. So you just need to be careful, because if you use biased information or inaccurate information, it reduces your credibility and makes it harder for the audience to believe what you have to say or to pay attention, because they're too busy arguing that you have misinformation or wrong information. One final note, and this note is so final, I'm going to actually add a slide to this presentation. Wikipedia is not a credible source. 100% not credible. The reason why Wikipedia is not a credible source is because anybody can post any information that they want to on this site. I could post a page tomorrow that talks about Hillary Clinton is the next president of the United States. She may or may not be, but nothing's going to stop me from initially posting that post. I will say with Wikipedia, though, they are fairly good about monitoring it, so my page probably would not be up on Wikipedia for long before it was taken down. But the bottom line is it could still be on there to begin with, which is why Wikipedia is not credible. However, most Wikipedia will have accurate information, and at the bottom of the page they'll have links to other websites or links to books or journals that support what they are posting on Wikipedia. Those sources at the bottom are usually very credible. So if you can take the information you got from Wikipedia and trace it back to the source that actually stated it, you can a lot of times get your information that way. So make sure that you are not quoting Wikipedia in your speeches, but are instead using that. If you use that as a resource, you're backtracking it and finding where Wikipedia is getting their information and using that source instead. So again, Wikipedia, not a credible source. If you use Wikipedia in one of your speeches, you are going to lose credit for citations, because that is not a credible source. So now that I've got that little bit of information, hopefully kicked that dead horse a few times, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this lecture and let you know that the next lecture will continue on tab 2, and it will be on citations and how citations work within your speech and within your works cited page.